been printed out, you say, these are really different kinds of things. Look at how is it that you're able to do this? The word was not developed, evolved to... It's because you have these underlying structures that you're able to produce this astonishing variety of output. Not independent of it, but because of it. And so the capacity to reason, to do mathematics, to do science, it's because the idea is just, it's simply using the tools that we evolved in new ways. I have a straight pen, and I use it to poke things, because that's what straight pens. But you know what I can use it for also? I can pick my teeth. Right? I can straighten out my eyelashes. Okay. I can use it for ways that never were evolved. And it's useful. Somebody else had a question? Yes, sir?
Well, first of all, you ended that on saying it was useful, and you're saying that useful isn't necessarily true, but...
And I agree.
So my question is not that, but my question is, you said earlier that, I mean, you quoted someone saying, so I don't know if you actually agree with it, but that everything we do is in order to get laid. And so if you don't...
E.O. Wilson.
Then put on the hat of someone who does agree with that. And I think I know what you would say in response. But what do you do about the ascetic monk or the just staunch religious person who never has sex throughout their entire life, or the people who deliberately do things that are against the...
Like wear condoms.
Like wear condoms. Or... That's not even... That doesn't do it for me. I think it's the people who go into the monasteries in Nepal and never come across a woman for the rest of their life on purpose.
Yeah. Do they do it because it's easy? It's easy to do that? Well, they're doing it because it's easy. They do it in spite of the fact that it's hard, because they have underlying motivations that might compel them otherwise, and they've adopted philosophies because they have adopted a philosophy, a mimetic structure, a belief system that suggests that if I want to do this, I've got to do this, which means I've got to deny this. I love fat, but in order to do this, I've got to not do this. I can still love fat. I don't eat the fat, not because it's easy not to eat it, because I have some other value that's driving me. Most people don't do that. And so, remember, evolutionary psychology is interested in human universals, not necessarily individual differences, but the individual differences can be understood with respect to modules, the underlying mechanisms operating in different ways, and sometimes in loggerheads with each other. And so everything we do is in order to get laid. That's not really what he meant, that you're intentionally trying to reproduce. But that the motivations that are driving your behavior through our ancestors, more often than not, led to successful reproduction. We did things not in order to reproduce. We are the way we are not in order to reproduce, but because differential reproduction was the sieve that allowed that motivation to persist in the next. And so this is a huge important conceptual component. There's no teleology here. There's no purpose. There's no goal. And so when we talk about design, we don't mean things were designed. I didn't evolve eyes in order to see. That's not why, because that suggests evolution had some purpose. Oh, you evolved in order to see. No, I evolved eyes because seeing enhanced my two things, surviving and reproduction. It's not in order to, it's because it had that effect. That's a very different perspective. Yes, ma'am.
I have a particular subject I wanted. You mentioned briefly about kin altruism.
Yeah.
And just to backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
I know that to be part of a biological altruism, like that kind of
Mm-hmm.
What is your thoughts on real altruism, whether or not we can truly, or if there's an action we can undergo where we do not gain anything, any benefit after, whether you think it exists ever?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Did everybody understand our question? Yeah. And people will say that, well, there's no such thing as real altruism because you're doing it for your benefit in the end. So when you help somebody, did you feel good? Oh, well, okay, you see, you got something out of it. There's a different way of thinking about that. Let me give you an analogy. If you pair bond with somebody, you find somebody that you really want to be with for a long time, here's a question. Down the road, is there somebody better going to come along?
What do you mean by better?
More money, nicer, more handsome, more generous, more emotionally stable.
All of the above or just one of them?
You pick them. All of them. Is there likely somebody better to come along?
Yes.
Yeah.
That may actually go into the question of afterlife and the continuation of the purpose.
There is life after death, and I'm experiencing it right now. But I'm just kidding. But let me go on. Okay. And so here's the thing: a female, if you pair bond with somebody, or a male pair bonds with somebody, they're committing their resources to the other person for some long period of time. Yes? But why should I run the risk as a female of getting pregnant, having a child, having to nurture that child, having to care for that child, if the chances are dang good that somebody better than me is going to come along and he's going to leave? Why would you do that?
That cost is less than
Well, the cost is great. And during ancestral times, the last thing you want is to be a young pregnant female without the group there or a male to help out with acquiring food. That's the last thing you want.
Yeah, but your perception.
Yeah, but the cost is you die.
But that might be less important to live.
That's true, but from an evolutionary point of view, the only thing that matters is whether the genes go on. From that point of view, okay, I'm almost there. Okay, and so how do you convince the person that you're going to stay? When likely they could leave if somebody better comes along, because somebody better is going to come along. Sorry, they are. They are. Probably. Hopefully not. They probably will. How do you convince them that you're not going to leave? When you lie, what you're doing is you are leveraging an evolved bias. What you tell the person is that, look, I love you, and I can't help it. This is not a choice I made. I can't help it. And what are the conditions under which you're going to believe that you believe that I can't help that I love you? If I actually love you. If I actually love you and feel committed is the conditions under which you're likely to actually believe that. It's a promissory note. Okay. Altruism. We help people. If you help people and you feel good about it, here's my question. Did you go into the altruistic act with the motivation, I'm going to feel good if I do this? Probably not. Going into the altruistic act, often you do these things and you feel good afterwards, maybe, but that's why you did it. And so, we're in a tribe of 25, 50, 75, 150 people during ancestral times. And I'm going to help you. I got some meat. I'm going to give you some meat. Under what conditions am I going to give you the meat, do you think?
Hoping that I would survive.
Because what if I have a terrible hunt next week and you get some meat? I'm hoping you're going to give me some meat back. Yes?
A tit for tat?
A tit for tat. Okay? But under what conditions are you likely going to want to reciprocate me? If you realize that the person is giving you something because they want to manipulate you, they're not really, they're trying to get something else. Are you less likely to return the favor?
If I think that you're trying to manipulate me?
Yes.
Probably not.
So, if you believe that my altruism is genuine because I really want to help you, isn't that the conditions under which you're more likely to help me again later? And what is the condition under which you're likely to believe that I genuinely want to help you?
It feels like you need to do it, or
Well, under what conditions will you believe that I genuinely want to help you?
If you really want to.
If I genuinely, you're likely to believe my genuineness if I'm genuine. Here's the irony. You're more likely to get a reciprocal feedback if you gave without the hope of getting something back. That's the irony. You, in fact, get a benefit by not engaging in a behavior that's benefit-oriented. Evolution doesn't care. You had a cognitive architecture. I love you. I care about you. Here, Jack, have some. Don't worry about it, man. And I really mean it. I don't expect anything back. But then I'm not in so good shape. Jack sees it, says, hey, you help me. But what if I gave something to Jack and he said, the only reason he did that is because he wanted my iPad. I know. I know it. And I was trying to. And so that's the conditions under which you might see altruism evolve. When it's genuine, you're much more likely to get reciprocity. And you're going to perceive it's genuine more likely if it's actually genuine.
So intentions totally makes a difference, like in expressing the intentions or
Well, at least, and so if you're a very good liar, then you can try to convince the person of your genuineness, no, I really do love you. Really. Good liars hurt people. And we are, as a species, the most sublime, tricky, lying species probably on the planet. We're so good at it. But we're also so very good at being genuine, being cooperative, altruistic. Because both those capacities, the capacity for hatred, for violence, for conflict, the capacity for cooperation, for genuineness, for altruism, they serve a purpose. If I'm in a group of people and another group of people want to get my stuff, I'm much more likely to survive if I say, no, you ain't. That's my stuff. Because it's a useful response. I'll go ahead and take my stuff. I don't care. Those people aren't here anymore. At least they're not in large numbers. Other questions? Yes, sir.
On the discussion that you guys are having about the longing
Yes.
Is there a language we can use when we're talking about, well, this module, these modules work at the end of the brain are producing this result, but they've been inhibited by these other modules because those have become stronger? Is there a language we can use when we talk about the threshold by which those results have to be met in one instead of the other one?
Well, the language is in terms of information processing, in terms of evolved specialized mechanisms that are sensitive to those features that work either in concert or in contrast to each other. That's the language. The philosophers, eliminative materialists, want to say eventually we'll not even talk about beliefs. We won't talk about any of that stuff. It will be reduced to brain mechanisms and that's it. When we talk about beliefs and intentions, those things, that's folk psychology. That's crap. Really, it's the other stuff. Evolutionary psychologists, no, there are such things as beliefs. There really are. They're informational states. That's all we mean. Informational states that's housed in a neurophysiological basis in the brain. So, is there a language? I don't know if there's any one language. But languages that make reference to underlying motivations, evolved mechanisms, that compete with each other sometimes, that sometimes work together. That's the language that evolutionary psychologists want to use. That probably didn't answer it very well, but that's the best I can come up with right now. So, yeah, you don't feel like you're trapped here, definitely. Yes, ma'am.